Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we have a track from an act named Aurélien titled Fragile. And if we switch over to YouTube, this is in French, if I'm not mistaken. We do have lyrics that I've translated to French just to understand what's going on for obvious reasons. As French is not my first language, and that's fine. I've studied a little bit of it, but not enough to really be fluent. Anyways, we're going to listen through this track from Fragile, and composer was Clara Beats. We're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. It's nice to have the guitar line on the left. Ah, fantastic. That kind of dreamlike reverb there, with the piano on the right and the guitar on the left, and his vocal chops in the center is really sweet to listen to. Okay. Vocal harmonies coming here. So it sounds like there's a little bit of, I could be wrong here, and correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like there'd be like a little bit of vocal modulation here, just with the sound of those harmonies, especially there, just to get that kind of more contemporary tone. And that's totally fine, you know, pop music like this. The oscillating bass is gorgeous. Really simple bass line, but it's effective because of everything else going around it, including the cascading piano lines. Nice, interesting crash sound there. Like it wasn't your typical ch. It was like a kind of a bolus or a jingling or something like that. I kind of dig it.
Je ne suis pas si sûr de moi. Souvent j'ai baissé les bras. J'ai besoin de plus que des paroles. Tous ces discours qui s'envolent. J'ai fait semblant d'être fort pour garder la face, mais
I've got a similar repetition there with the motif and the arrangement. A really interesting panning as well, those vocals on the side there. It was nice to have that. Fills in the stereo field really well.
Je témoignerai que Dieu est puissant. Quand je suis faible, je deviens plus fort. Quand mon âme chancelle, je vois un trésor. Mon corps peut s'épuiser, le monde me rejeter. Moi je témoignerai.
Again, like a lot of the power comes with the vocal performance. I'm not saying a lot because I don't feel the need to. I'm hearing similarities with the motifs and like the different sort of chord progressions, bass lines and drums, etc. between the two halves of the track. You know, it's a strong track. I can understand why there's been a bit of attention to this guy. He has like 28,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is good effort. You know, relatively one of the bigger musicians that I review. I mean, it was a charming track to listen to. I've got no real complaints about it. I guess we'll look through the lyrics and see if we can figure out what's going on with that. And then we'll probably be sorted, eh? Yeah, interesting time. So we've got lyrics here, just to have a look through. I've translated them from the French original lyrics, just so I could figure out what's going on. Yeah, I think that this track is talking about like the words and how we communicate with one another. Maybe they are, how do I say it? I regret when I make you cry, I'm completely out of it. Maybe they're doing something or getting into a state where they can't really support each other. Could be easier, but I'm making it harder for myself. Oh, I get it. So like he's talking about being weak and, you know, the world rejects me, you know, the body can wear out, that God is powerful. So it's going to go that sort of religious sort of subtext as well, which is fine. I like it better when you're in my arms, I'm not sure of myself. So basically we're trying to sort of find solace in our own weakness and vulnerability with God, whilst also wishing that the person can come back to us. So basically I think this track is about you know, how people try to be strong, but inevitably it makes them weaker because it kind of sucks the life out of them, especially if they get to a point where they are not actually getting anywhere positive with it. If that makes sense. I think that's what Fragile is about. Because this is my conclusion of this track, you know, from Aurélien, titled Fragile. I enjoyed it. I mean, I think that I've explained what the track is about in the lyrics section. It's about someone who is struggling through life and having a rough time of it, and is finding sort of like solace in God, and the fact that if he shows weakness, and like he'll be able to find his strength through that, you know, through that support and everything like that, and that inner belief. I think that's cool. I think that a lot of people are vulnerable. In fact, everyone's vulnerable. A lot of people just don't pretend that they are. And it's about figuring out how you cope with those moments. And I think that this is one way of coping with that. And I'm glad that Aurélien has managed to find that. And I'm glad that he's talking about it. I'm sure there'll be an audience for the story and what he's talking about, and that people will appreciate it. I think that the way that he sang as well was tasteful. I think that he's got a nice sort of coloration and texture to his voice, even with the modulation of the vocals and some of those harmony parts, and the way that he goes into the center on the left and the right. I mean, I think there's stuff to appreciate there. I'm happy with what I've heard from him so far. You know, he constructs really competent vocal melodies there and harmonies that work well across the rest of the arrangement and production. You know, there's a clear understanding of the direction you want to go and the way to interpret it. And I think that there was a lack of oomph with his vocals, like a lack of a determined kind of like. It was a very soft vocal performance, if that makes sense. I think that works with the showing the vulnerability and weakness and everything like that, and being grateful and looking at an alternative there. I think that makes a lot of sense. So good job to Aurélien for showing that vulnerability there, you know. As long as I hope that things are better for him now. When I listen to this musician, I go, okay, so like his vocals are good. He's got good chest voice and head voice. He knows how to emote appropriately. And the story that he's singing sounds authentic and genuine. The motif behind it, you had such a softness with the overall arrangement of like those synths and those, I mean, like if we go back, we had some synths, some bass, some like oscillating bass, the drums, etc. A few other leads in there. There was a lot to appreciate there, you know, from the perspective of someone who is, and this is my first impression with him. It kind of sounds like he's going through a time trying to figure out what's going on, but it's also like neutral enough tonally. Well, I mean, it's sad sounding, so you know it's a struggle, but it's not like it's going to be like a grieving, or it's going to put people off who are more familiar with stuff in the similar kind of genre. He's found a sweet spot, I think, between being genuine as a musician whilst also creating music that people are going to enjoy without having to invest too much emotionally into it. And that's a testament to his skill as a musician and a composer. But I suppose also it's worth noting that the composition, as I understand it, was Claro Beats, which is no disrespect to Fragile. I think that both of these musicians did well together. It was a good collaboration. The track at 2.5 minutes to just under 3 minutes is great. You know, you got lots in there to appreciate. It was enough to get a good idea and concept of what the story was about, and to showcase the other instrumental elements of the mix, as well as a little bit of sort of post-production with the panning and effects and stuff. I mean, that was great. I mean, there was some sort of bittersweet melodies and harmonies there that didn't really ever seem like they resolved, which I don't necessarily mind, because I don't think that you can necessarily resolve something like this super easily. I suppose just all you can do is just hope that, again, that Aurélien finds peace where they're going with this. I think for fans of this music, the relative neutrality along with the gentle development of the theme along the way will be something they enjoy. Like, if we look at the production, recording, mixing, and mastering, there was a lot of reverb and airiness, and sort of, there's a very mellow kind of misty feel to the overall survival, overall scene. It's the guy had vocals recorded really well. They were nice and clear in the mix with there was a bit of vocal modulation there, maybe a bit of tuning or something like that, and like the harmonies or something like that. But it had a great presence there. It was, the mixed and mastered well alongside the rest of the other elements of the mix, But there was also a lot of space in there, even if we had a bit more extra intensity with those low sort of oscillating sub basses and the pads that kind of streamed down the sides. It never felt like too much, which I think is an interesting sort of thing that kind of encapsulates you in the world rather than throws it at you. And I think that's a smart move from a production perspective. Again, nice use of moving the vocals around the headphones from left to right. and those repeaters. We clearly have someone here, well, not just more you know, fragile, but also Clara Beats, who knew how to do what they needed to with the post-production side of things, as well as the actual sort of like composition part. You know, with the leveling and things being nice and wide in the stereo field, and levitating compression being nailed, and there being the space and change in perceived loudness and dynamic range there. And overall, this is very pleasing to listen to. But I hope that things are better for Aurélien now, as you know, because this is effectively my review of Aurélien's Fragile. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out Aurélien's various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.